Hey, Nerd Herd, Dynasty Nerds here, back again, talking about a 2023 startup draft. This one's a little bit different. We included the 23 picks and the 24 picks, and this is a real money draft.
Picks. Also, super big announcement for us in the show, too, so you'll want to hear that.
Lots of free Dynasty Nerds coming your way.
Ready, set, hut. Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, here with my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
And Garrett Price.
My iPad shrunk.
Oh, there you go.
Oh my gosh. It's a really tiny iPad.
Yeah, it gets the job done. Yeah, your
Makes it
wife
work.
still loves you, so it's okay. That's all that matters. We're back here. We have a interesting show to go over today, 1 week before we kick off our rookie breakdowns with the quarterbacks start next week. So it's very exciting. It's also sometimes it's dreaded for how much film I'm forced to watch at this point, because it's easy. Like, it's weird. Like, ever since I had, like, when we have to do the shows, it's like, oh, you casually watch film. You know, like, oh, I get a kind of good feel. But when you have to break down to people, like, you're in depth in a film, you're like, all right, I got to be a week ahead here. So it's like diving into the running backs now for the quarter. It's just,
it's a grind.
It's a grind.
Here we go.
It's most of the free time over the next 2 months or so.
2 months straight.
Wait, you guys have free time?
Well, see, that's why I always get started a little bit ahead of time. So I do have still a smidge of free time.
Ugh.
Oh, I'm the worst. I'm the biggest. Like, when it comes to stuff that I have to do, like, I procrastinate all the way up until like the end. It's like I don't have to do this now.
I've got 7 hours to do 6 hours of work. That sounds like I got a free hour.
Free
right
hour
now.
in there.
Right now. I don't need to start.
Today's show, we're going to talk about a startup I just did. And we also got some really big news here come up here in a minute. I can't wait to share with everybody. Talk about the film room and how we watch all our film, the largest film library out there, the All 22 film. We're about to tell you how you can get it for all those who want to join the Nerd Herd. So, like, people that have been listening, like, hey, I don't sign up for sites. I've been thinking about it, but we're about to give you an opportunity to get in here for a disgustingly cheap price. But today's show, we're talking about not a mock draft, an actual draft.
An actual draft.
That I just finished today.
Yeah.
The draft just actually finished like an hour ago. So what this draft was, it's something different. Kind of an idea I had, and instead of thinking about it, I just did it. See how it turned out.
Just see how it goes.
Kind of weird how it all went out, but I did a startup draft, Superflex Tight End Premium with the Nerd Herd. And what we did was we included the 23 draft picks, so you could draft 1-1, 1-3, and so on. And we also include the 24 picks.
Oof.
So 2024, 1-1, 1-2, and so on.
Which makes it especially interesting because we already know that there's some very legitimate headline players in the 24 class. So that's what I'm interested to see is like how much did the headliners, potentially names that, we saw reports today that there's GMs that believe Caleb Williams and Drake May were the best college quarterbacks last year, even better than anybody in this class. So some guys might be saving their picks and things like that. So, with that kind of thought process in mind, where these guys went versus 23 class.
I had that thought process in mind, and we're going to talk about it. So it's interesting. I'll tell you what, though. It was a lot of fun, and it's the first one I ever did like that, and I really want to do another one. It was really fun and exciting. So, and you had to pay 2 years in advance, obviously, if you're in next year's draft class. So it's like a $150 league, so everybody paid $300 up front. So it's all, people got their money on the line, and every team took a different approach to it. I took a really weird approach, but I took a really weird approach on purpose to kind of see how it played out. So, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it, because I drafted a team that could literally go either way. And I made sure I set myself up for the future as well with it. So we'll talk about it. Before we do, I got to tell you about our friends Underdog. If you've heard of Underdog, which I'm sure you have, you know exactly how excited I am to partner up with Underdog here for the foreseeable future. And if you don't, well, you need to get hip, because
get on that app.
This is an app that I've literally been using since day one that it launched. They used to have another app called Draft, and they got bought out by CBS, and they trashed it, and they came with Underdog. And I literally use Underdog all the time in the offseason, like literally every day. I have a draft going on every day. So what is Underdog? It's a best ball site where your place you go on there. We focus on football. They have all the other sports you could play.
Right.
They have a really cool game going right now where you can only draft rookies and sophomores. So that's all you can draft in the best ball league.
Wow.
They had those last year. I had a good time doing that as well. So a best ball league, what is that? You just draft your team. Like you have a draft, like a startup draft. It could be it could be 3 people, 1 other person, 6 people, however you want to see fit. And you draft that team, no waivers, no weekly decisions. You draft the team and forget about it. That's why I love it, because
You don't set a starting lineup, right?
you don't set a starting lineup. So I'll draft my team now. What I do is I join a draft. Once that draft is over, I join another draft. All the way until August, I do this nonstop. They have tons of contests where they have the big tourneys. Our buddy Pat Coran just won the last one. He won $2 million. It was crazy that he won that. Good, congrats to Pat.
Yeah.
So happy for him. And so what you do is you could draft a team, which is what we love to do. Rookies are included as well. And then you just let it sit. And I like to see how it progresses from like now March until August. And I like doing them now because I feel like somebody who plays Dynasty and somebody who knows the rookie class, like I'm ahead
advantage
of the curve, right? Like of these rookies. So I know where to, everybody's going to grab Bijan early, but hey, I can grab Devin A-Chain. I can grab Tank Bigsby before they're even drafted because I like them.
I like them. I think
know
they're
talented.
Yep.
So that's what it is. And Underdog lets you draft your fantasy team in just minutes with their slick, easy to use mobile app, friendly websites. They offer different kinds of best ball leagues. And all you got to do right now is get on there and download the app. And if you use the promo code NERDS, this is important. You use the promo code NERDS, they're going to double your deposit up to $100. So if you put in $100, they'll give you $100. But wait, there's even more. Dynasty Nerds and Underdog have come to an agreement where all new Underdog users that sign up and they use the promo code NERDS, and all you got to do is put in $10 deposit. And we're going to have a lot of leagues that you can play. Myself, Garrett, and Matt from here to August. We're actually going to have a new one next week, and every week going forward, we're going to have some best ball drafts for us, $10 drafts. If you go in and you put in $10, you get a free year subscription to dynastynerds.com.
A whole year.
A whole year. So you get a free sub. Now, what does that entail? When you go, a free sub. The Dynasty Nerds film room. You hear us talk about all these rookies, and you want to watch the film, you get the film room for a year. You get the nerd score. You get the Dynasty GM, which is what we talk about all the time.
And that's like a nuke.
Yeah. And that's coming to an app form. Of course, you get a bonus podcast. So, like, what a great time, like, when you listen to the show and you say, oh, man, like, I love their free show. But, like, dude, half of the rookies are on the paid version of the podcast because there's so much to talk about. We can't cover it all. Well, now you can get it $10. So if you've ever listened to the show, you've ever enjoyed the show, and you're really curious about what we have to offer, right now, all you got to do is go to Underdogs, put in a $10 deposit, use the promo code NERDS, and we will give you a free year subscription.
That's such a good deal because not only are we decreasing the cost to join the Nerd Herd to $10, which normally for a year it's what, $70?
Yeah.
So down to $10. But it's not like you don't get anything for that $10. You also get to play on Underdog, this fantastic platform where you can win even more money. So you could actually be making money by joining Dynasty.
It sounds like the classic win-win-win.
Win-win-win.
Yeah. It's www.uwin.com.
All right.
3 wins, 3 W's. So, I mean, again, I understand some people like listen to the show and they're like, dude, I'm not paying for subs. I'm not doing this. But this is one thing I can promise. $10 is going to be the best $10 you've ever spent. And then it's our job after that to keep you sticking around. And I promise once you get in there, you're not going to want to leave. I mean, the film room alone is worth $10. The extra podcast, maybe, if you don't like me, whatever. But I'm here. We're talking rookies. It's a great time this time of year. The nerd score is awesome, and the film room is worth $70 by itself for the whole year. So we just added
GM
tons
tool,
of tools in there. So check it out. Underdog. Get on there. Download the app. This is for new users only. If you already have a Nerd Herd subscription, it does not count. This is for people that do not have the email set up with the nerds. So, Underdog, check them out. You guys ready?
I'm ready. You ready?
About my draft? Okay. So, this draft was, like I said, unique. And I went into this draft with a couple things in mind. Like all drafts, I wanted to make, I was for sure taking a quarterback with my first pick. And I was real tempted, at 1-5. I knew I was going to have a chance at Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. I have 0 shares across all 20 leagues I'm in. I have no shares. Mm-hmm. But it's something I was like, there's still no way. I don't care how good Justin Jefferson is, how good Jamar Chase is. I am not taking a quarterback. And I had 1-5, and I knew I didn't like that pick. I really wanted to like pick 1-9, 110 right around there. It was easier for me. But my mindset going into this draft was, okay, with the 24 picks included, I have to be aware of, in a Superflex tight end premium draft, like how valuable those picks are.
Right.
Like 23 picks are valuable too, but we have Bijan Robinson at the top, and he's the number one guy, but at the same time, he's still a running back, right?
Correct.
Next year, Caleb Williams is going to have the buildup of a Trevor Lawrence, right? He's going to be that hyped up. So
Correct.
That value of your 1-1, and I know I would take Caleb Williams today. If Caleb Williams came out today and Bijan was in the same class, I would take Caleb Williams over Bijan Robinson. And Bijan Robinson's going at the end of like round 1, high second round of startup drafts. So I knew I want to be in position to grab Caleb Williams. And I said, okay, if worst case I can't get Caleb Williams, I want to be in position to get Marvin Harrison Jr. And then I was talking to Garrett about throughout the process because he knows the 24 class better than I do. And him and I were talking like, well, there's Drake May in that class. There's Trevian Henderson in that class. There's Brock Bowers in that class, who's a super elite tight end.
Nice tight end, right?
So there's tons of talent in that 24 class as well.
And who knows who could develop and emerge as well.
Which always happens. So I had to keep that in mind as well. And I knew I wanted to come away with a first round pick in both classes. Like I knew that. So I told myself, I was like, I want to have a team that. So my strategy going into this to kind of leave myself in limbo, because I knew we were going to talk about this show as well, and where to go with it, was I want to put myself in a position where I knew the record didn't matter this year because.
Explain why it doesn't matter.
Because next year's draft class, we're already drafted. So if you finish the worst pick, it doesn't matter if you don't have a draft pick next year because those picks are already selected.
So if you're the worst team, you don't necessarily get 1-1 because somebody already took 1-1.
So I was focused on, okay, let me get a starting lineup and not worry about age in that starting lineup whatsoever and backfill it with like youth. And by youth, I mean unknown youth of like draft picks.
Draft capital.
And I'll tell you ahead of time, one thing I missed out is, like, I know I really wanted Daniel Jones in this draft class. He was my idea of my second quarterback, and I just missed out on him. I ended up getting sniped multiple times on guys I wanted in this draft and kind of like changed things.
Well, you were playing with, outside of like Matt and I, the people that would know how you would draft the best would be the people that listen to your show.
Oh, yeah. They know what was going on.
So they were prepared.
So
they knew that you're the president.
We'll talk it out pick by pick and kind of where it was. And I want to say, because there's one pick, my second pick kind of changed the way my whole draft went after that too, in my mindset. So I had 1-5. The first pick went Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. And at 1-5, I thought I was for sure going to get Justin Herbert, right? Like I thought for sure I was going to get Justin Herbert.
So if Herbert fell to you at 5, you're definitely staying.
You're sitting pat.
You're taking the pick, right?
I'm staying pat, 100%. Like it was all set. Like I'm taking Justin Herbert. I'm going to go from there.
Right.
There's two quarterbacks I really wanted at 1-5. It was Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. Like I'm a big Trevor Lawrence honk. I think he's an absolute great buy. What looks like an overpay today is underpaid tomorrow. That's what I feel about Trevor Lawrence in this draft class. End of the year, phenomenally. His ball placement, his skill set, who's growing with Doug Peterson. The weapons he's going to have next year is going to be disgusting. So Herbert went 1-5 or 1-4. It kind of threw me off there.
Right, absolutely.
So 1-5, I knew I wanted Trevor Lawrence.
Right.
And I knew it wasn't really
that wasn't a value
a good pick there. Because I knew Jalen Hurts was the right pick for that. But I'm still not. I love Jalen Hurts, but for a startup, he's still not the guy I would put all my eggs in his basket over like Trevor Lawrence personally.
Okay.
I was willing to take him if I couldn't move back to but I wanted my guy, so I ended up moving back to just 2 spots to move up 2 spots in the second to get my guy. Traded back. So Jalen Hurts does go at 1-5. Justin Jefferson goes at 1-6. So I'm at 1-7. So I traded back there to move up a little bit in the second round. And it's a good thing I did to get who I wanted. Because I did want to put myself a little bit higher because I didn't know where these picks were going to go. And I figured they'd go high in the second. So I moved back to 1-7. I do select Trevor Lawrence. So I got my quarterback. I got my baseline.
Just to fill out, Justin Jefferson went in between you guys.
Right. And that was like the big question that I was going to have. I mean, obviously you're sitting at 1-5 and you're talking quarterback, which makes total sense in a Superflex startup draft. But I was just wondering if you had any regret that you could have had Justin Jefferson at 5 and then maybe had a totally different strategy kind of throughout the rest of the draft and had a true difference maker as your wide receiver 1 for years to come. Instead of getting Trevor Lawrence, who I think has all the upside in the world to be
the top 5 quarterback.
Exactly. A top 5 type of guy, but he still hasn't proven it yet that he can do that. While Justin Jefferson totally has.
I have some Trevor Lawrence stats, but they're on my other computer. I put a lot of, because I want to do a YouTube show, and I put a lot of study into Trevor Lawrence these last couple months of just about Doug Peterson's offense and how Trevor Lawrence played. And let me put it this way, I'm very happy having Trevor Lawrence.
Okay.
All his stats really pan out to me, like his air yards, his completions. I think in Calvary is going to be huge. So I have zero regrets.
Okay.
Zero regrets.
I took a lot of risk last offseason and invested, which could have blown up in my face, but I believed in him enough. So I was able to get like the Trevor Lawrence discount.
Bottom basement.
Yeah.
And seeing the way, and I saw how the first 5 picks went, all quarterbacks, which is standard. I took Trevor Lawrence. I didn't want to risk. There's one thing I don't want to risk. I don't want to risk if I'm going to miss out. You're right. If I miss out on Justin Jefferson, a wide receiver, that's going to be really good for years. Yeah. But I know for sure I'm going to be in position to probably get, if I want, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, someone along those lines. Like, once you miss out on the young quarterbacks, that's it.
Sure.
In the state of the quarterback situation now, it's not pretty. So I could not risk missing out on that. And trust me, I told myself, I was like, I'm going to use this draft to get players I don't have. And of course, it never works out that way.
Right. and I know I have the privilege of knowing what happened kind of later and kind of some of the struggles you were going through later on.
Some hindsight.
So I was just wondering, having known how the rest of the draft kind of unfolded and where you ended up at the wide receiver position, I was just wondering if you had any little bit of tinge of regret.
Literally zero regret.
Okay. All right.
Because how
With this pick.
With this pick. Because how it played out next is exactly why I don't have regret. Because then it went Jamar Chase right after that pick at 1-8. Then it went Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, CeeDee Lamb, and then the turn took Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray.
Okay.
And I was kind of hoping Deshaun Watson would kind of like slip back to me in the second, and that would have changed my draft all the way as well. He didn't. So right then when it went Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray, I was ecstatic I took Trevor Lawrence, because that was the end of a tier, essentially.
Right.
I mean, you have Dak on there. So otherwise, I would have missed out. So here I would be sitting with Justin Jefferson, and the guy who took Justin Jefferson ended up going receiver again after that, because you missed that quarterback run, and now you're settling for that other tier of quarterback.
I am a little bit surprised how far Dak ended up falling. I mean, it's not super far, but to me, Dak's the last guy in that tier, and for him to last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 picks all the way to 2-9 after Kyler was kind of surprising to me, because I thought somebody would have gobbled him up real quick.
Well, it's because of what happened next.
Oh, tell us.
So Kyler Murray goes at 2-1 around the turn. Then it goes AJ Brown, Jalen Waddle, and then right before me, because I'd moved up to 5 at 2-4, Justin Tucker went, which was 23-1-1.
Justin Tucker, congratulations.
Bijan Robinson. So Bijan Robinson ends up going at 2-4.
So in this draft,
So the 1-1 is what went there. Not
Yes,
we
1-1.
know it's Bijan,
yeah,
but it's the 1-1.
it's
1-1.
the 1-1 in the 23 draft.
Yeah, so we use kickers as 23 picks, and we use defensive players as 24 picks. So if you selected a defensive player, that pick was off the board, and we kept a pinned chat with all the picks in the chat. So then I was up next, and this is where my whole draft kind of turns into what it was. So I was up next. I'd moved up in the second round, which I was pretty happy with, because right before this pick, it did go 1-1.
What was the cost to move up there? Do you recall off the top of your head or no?
I'd moved back to 1-7.
That was just the leftover from the pick.
That was okay. All right.
So I moved up 2 spots in the second round, and
Gotcha.
he moved back 2 spots in the second round. Now, in most cases, usually once we see any kind of run, it starts if somebody picks the first. A lot of people were surprised, because at the next pick, I took 24-1-1. And some people were shocked. They were like, oh my God, it went way higher than I thought it would. I thought it would go to the back end of the second. And I wrote in the group chat, I was like, well, if I'm being honest, I would have selected 24-1-1 over the 23-1-1.
Which is traditionally not standard wisdom that we would give. Like, you don't want to have to wait a year.
Right.
But because of specifically who we knew was coming out,
Caleb Williams
changes things.
So I'm getting the hype train quarterback that's going to be worth more than Bijan Robinson startups. I missed out on, Caleb Williams would go ahead of Deshaun Watson. He would go ahead of Kyler Murray for sure in startups. So I already
Next year.
Absolutely.
And it's not like, again, this is literally 1 year down the road. It's the next draft, right?
Right.
So I took the 1-1 there, knowing now I have Trevor Lawrence, I have Caleb Williams. So I have exactly what I wanted in the first place. I have a core line of quarterbacks. Now, how that changed my mentality was every time another quarterback was on the board was like, well, I'm going to have Caleb Williams next year. And it's going to be Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams to start on my team for the next 15 years, essentially. Right. So it really did change the way I looked at quarterbacks. I had my quarterback on my team. He tore his ACL or something. He's not going to be on my team until next year. So having that 1-1, it really kind of changed the way I looked at other quarterbacks because now I had 2 quarterbacks at that 1-1. And if anything, it's I also looked at these picks as powerhouse trade assets, right?
Sure.
Like the more picks I had, the more trading assets I had as well, because now other people don't have picks, essentially. Correct. For every one I take, somebody else cannot have. And some teams didn't take a lot of draft picks. They just took players.
It's just a supply and demand type of issue. You know, you take up all the supply and then there's demand for all your pick.
Yeah, so I gave myself a lot of leeway here, like to move around my team. I have a lot of tradable assets. So getting that 1-1 there, I knew now I had Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams, and I don't have to worry about I don't have to worry about forcing quarterback at this point. Mm-hmm. I'm shorthanded this year, but again, record doesn't matter this year. So if I finish in 3rd, 5th, 6th, whatever, I have to just wait 1 year to get my guy, and then my franchise could take off. Mm-hmm. That's fine. But I still want. So once I took this player here, I was like, okay. My strategy was, okay, I got the 1-1. I got my young quarterbacks. Now I could build a team. I told myself, I'm going to build a team. I'm going to try and get a good starting lineup, a solid starting lineup. Don't worry, grab veterans where I can, and then back it up with youth. And by youth, draft capital. And I'll grab young guys where I can, but I'm not overly concerned about taking the upside when I can take the upside in the draft of the unknown.
It's an interesting strategy. It seems like you're almost taking a 2-year look at this. I mean, you're almost looking at it 2 year. You're not looking at next year as anything other than a free ride, right?
Correct.
And I'm wondering if other people in this draft kind of pounced on that and kind of took advantage and maybe went for a little bit more win now, right? Because it seems like you want to.
It's a good time to go for a win now.
It absolutely is. And
a couple of teams did that.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. Interesting. I mean, your strategy is definitely probably more forward looking, while the other teams are kind of going for it right then and there just to kind of grab a quick trophy. I've been in leagues where I did that, and then it is sometimes hard to rebound though. That's the one thing.
See, I didn't think I was. Here's the thing though. I didn't think I was taking that big of a risk. I know it sounds like a risk because you take the 2024 1-1, but this would be like the year before Trevor Lawrence was coming out. Right. Sure. Almost like if you had same thing, if I needed a running back and I knew I was getting Bijan next year, it changes the way I draft running backs. So getting a caliber player like Caleb Williams, which we can all agree is easily the one, he would have been the number 1 pick in the NFL draft this year. Like I said, the way I look at it, I got value with this pick because Bijan went right before him. I would take in Caleb ahead of Bijan Robinson. They're both in the same draft class. I mentioned I would take in Caleb Williams ahead of CeeDee Lamb.
Right.
Kyler
Murray,
all the players Watson, that he went ahead of him, 1-1, Jalen Waddle, A.J. Brown, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, CeeDee Lamb, Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson, you would take him ahead of?
Yes.
Okay.
Because he's super mobile as well. We don't know what's going on with Lamar. It's close, but it's 50-50 on that one.
So you would have basically taken him at 1-8.
I would have taken him at 1-8, yeah. So I ended up having back-to-back first, essentially, in my eyes.
Right.
Now, does it mean for sure that Caleb Williams is going to pan out? No. But at the same time, I told myself as well, you said, oh, you missed out on Justin Jefferson. My thought process is anything happens to Caleb Williams. Say he gets hurt, he has a down year, he goes back to school. Maybe Drake May bounces back up.
Yeah.
But then worst case scenario is best case scenario is I get Marvin Harrison Jr.
Well, and that's the nice part about draft assets. And we don't talk about it, and I know we talked about it a few years back, but they are one thing that you can almost for sure say is always going to appreciate in value. If you get a 25 first right now, a 26 first, it's not worth very much. But in 2 years, 3 years, it's going to be worth quite a bit because the excitement for the class, the recency of the players that you're going to get, once you start being able to put names to them, very, very rarely is a draft pick going to lose value because draft picks can't get hurt. Draft picks can't get suspended. Because you can always pivot to a different player. So that is the one nice part about picks over players. Whereas I like this even more than if you were able to say, I'm taking Caleb Williams today. I like this even more just in case.
Because it's not set in stone.
It's
So
not.
and that's why I liked it as well. And I'm telling you, I absolutely loved doing it. I want to do another one. Like it was a ton of fun because you're right. The unknown. You're not set on that player. So if something goes bad and you took it, same thing. If I took Caleb Williams here and something went bad, yeah, my team's devastated. But I'm not. I just have the 1-1 where, like Garrett said, that at no point depreciates in value. All it does is go up in value. And my thought process throughout this was like, okay, draft picks these are the picks. Like there's no other, like I for sure have this pick.
You don't have to worry about the risk of it falling or the team doing better than you thought or anything like that.
And you'll see with some of the other picks I have, and I'll talk about these when we get to them. It's like, okay, it's easy to say, oh, you're trading for that first. It could be 1-1. It could be 1-4. No, it's 1-1.
It's 100%.
It's 1-1.
Yep.
And I might be positioned to move off of 1-1 and get like maybe Daniel Jones in 1-2. But who knows how it plays out, right? If Caleb Williams tears the roof off, I'm probably just going to keep it. So that was my thought process.
Maybe you could get Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But, so like my thought process was like, okay, I just got really good value there. Because if we did this draft this time next year, this player is going higher.
Speaking of value, real quick before you move on to the next player, did it change how you valued quarterback moving forward?
Yes.
Because, I know sometimes when you get set at a position, you might have value at, I know you said already Daniel Jones didn't end up being that guy, but you might have value at Derek Carr or Russell Wilson or wherever, where normally you would draft them. And I'm a big proponent of value-based drafting, but it's tough when you're like, well, I already have 2 starters basically. So did that alter your draft selections at all?
It did because I felt I had 2 quarterbacks, Caleb Williams. But I did. My plan is always to have 3 young quarterbacks. Like my plan was Daniel Jones the whole time. That was my whole thought process with Jared Goff as a backup plan. I got sniped every time, so it kind of did change how I wanted this to play out. It didn't play out exactly how I wanted to, but no startup usually does.
Sure.
And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Like I want to come in here and be a little risky with it because I want to see how it played out. Like this is, for me,
it's an experiment.
The whole reason I wanted to do this was draft because I wanted to see it was an experiment to me. You know what I mean? I'm just putting my money on the experiment. And I knew if I invested in 1-1 in future capital, then I would be okay no matter how it pans out. Because if my team fails like this year, I have the draft capital to back it up. I have the draft capital of a failed team already. So it does not matter to me. So right after I take the 1-1, it goes Breece Hall, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then it went 2023 1-2.
Okay.
Dak Prescott, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey. 2024 1-2 went at 212. And then 23 1-3 went at the turn as well. So the person who took Patrick Mahomes now has 24 1-2
1-2
and 23 1-3.
So he's got some
So
good assets.
So you're basically, he's looking at, if he went all quarterbacks, which he probably won't, but he's probably looking at Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. And then he's looking at, Drake May or Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, he's in a good spot there as well. So he can get the other quarterback. He can get Marvin Harrison Jr., anybody he wants there. We'll see how it plans out. It'll probably be Marvin Harrison Jr., but if Drake May comes out and balls out, it'd probably be Drake May. Doesn't matter how good the receiver is.
No.
Then it went Tyreek Hill, Kenneth Walker, and then, my thought process here again. So I was up in 2 picks. And my thought process was like, I'm taking Kyle Pitts, right? Like
For sure.
And we just talked about this on the podcast. These are Nerd members.
Yeah.
And like a lot of picks that what happened, Kyle Pitts went right before me, which again threw me off, right? Because I was like, okay, I'm gonna get Kyle Pitts. I'm gonna have just Trevor Lawrence, Kyle Pitts, and
you loaded
Bill
up
Williams.
on, because this is a Superflex tight end premium. We might not have mentioned that it's tight end premium.
He did. Yep.
So, did he? Okay. So you're basically strong at all the premium positions then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when it came to me, I was up next after Kyle Pitts went. I was a little upset, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take either Garrett Wilson or Mark Andrews.
A little upset is basically his permanent state for like the next 5 or 6 rounds. Right?
Yeah.
It's just a little.
I kept getting literally right before I was gonna pick a player, he gets.
What happened later in this round did work out though.
It worked out perfectly for me.
So
I wanted Garrett Wilson or Mark Andrews, and I was like, okay, if I stay here, I'm gonna take Garrett Wilson. That's gonna be my young receiver. I'm a big fan. That gives me another young guy. I put it out there, hey, I'm willing to trade back here to move up a little bit in like the 5th round or whatever. And I traded back a little bit, thinking if I traded back a little bit, one of those guys would probably still be there. So I did trading back again. I traded back, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 spots, all the way down to
310.
310.
Mm-hmm.
So the person who took my spot took 2023 1-4, it looks like. And then I went Tua. Then I went Garrett Wilson. Then I went Trey Lance. Then I went to Devontae Smith. And then finally I was up and Mark Andrews was there.
Still on the board.
Still on the board. And there was contemplation when Kyle Pitts got picked, right? That Mark Andrews was going to be your pick anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
So it worked out.
Yeah.
I was going to take Mark Andrews or Garrett Wilson.
Yep.
If I would have stayed true, I probably would have taken Garrett Wilson,
Yeah.
even though I felt like Mark Andrews was the right pick.
We literally talked about this. We're like, Mark Andrews is the right pick. Gary Wilson's more fun.
It's funny because I talked to you both separately about it. I was like, Mark Andrews or Garrett Wilson. And we all three had the same exact response. Mark Andrews is the right pick, but I would take Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. It's hard not to, you know.
He looks like he could be the next Justin Jefferson,
Sure.
like we're talking about. So you could still get Justin Jefferson just in the third round.
So like I preached on the podcast, like I want to get one of the elite tight ends. So I have Trevor Lawrence and Mark Andrews. I have a really good tight end. I still got the Caleb Williams. No running backs, no receivers yet. Then goes Travis Kelce, T. Higgins. 2024 pick went off the boards. Sorry, I can't. These are labeled defensive players, so I can't remember what picks what. I
think
only know
it's
my players.
3.
1-3.
I think so.
1-3. Yeah, you're right. It is 1-3 and 24. Then it goes Kirk Cousins, Drake London, Chris Olave, Saquon Barkley, T.J. Hawkinson, and then
You're one pick away at this point.
I'm one pick away, and I was like, okay, I'm interested in taking some like Daniel Jones here to get my other quarterback.
This is
here.
where you wanted the D Jones.
And then after T.J. Hawkinson, Daniel Jones went.
So one pick ahead of you, Daniel Jones gets selected.
So I traded back again because my guy was gone. Then it goes Dallas Goedert, DK Metcalf, Javonte Williams, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Tyler Bass, Austin Eckler.
Tyler Bass was a pick.
And that would have been
1-5 in the 23, I think, is where we're at.
think so.
Yeah.
Or maybe 1-6 now.
And before you say who you pick, Rich,
It was 1-6, I think.
let me tell you about FFPC.
Do it.
FFPC launched in 2010. FFPC is the home of the largest high stakes dynasty league community in fantasy football. They have, you can $77 leagues, nothing crazy, nothing nuts, but you can decide, you know what, I want to be a high roller. I want to get some high stakes stuff going on here. You can have a $2,500 entry team. That's right, $2,500. So all types of leagues, whatever you're comfortable with. They have never had a league fold. I think that's the biggest thing. We've talked about that over and over. But if you've played Dynasty for any length of time, especially if it's with random people, the odds of it lasting past 3 years is very, very small. Very, very small. With your buddies, you get a little bit better shot at it. But
Right.
with random people,
who knows?
you never know. This is all people that are invested in their teams. And look, if they decide to leave, that's okay. They refill it like that. No problem. Keep on moving. So you're not going to be like, I built this whole team preparing for the 2023 draft. I have the 1-1. I have the 1-5. I have the 1-8. I have the 1-10 and 1-11. And then the league just folded. And I was all prepared for this year. You don't have to worry about that. Best of all, use promo code NERDS. And you get $25 off any entry if you're a new member. So that $77 team, well, now it's only what? 52?
Yep. Good math.
$52. Look, it's like, I better get this right.
And some of the orphans you get for discounting. So maybe $1,000 team that you can get for $800.
Exactly. So head over there, FFPC, use promo code NERDS and get that $25 off today. Because I get asked all the time, Garrett, where can I go? Because my buddies, I only have a couple buddies that are interested in Dynasty, and people keep closing. Like, go to FFPC. You won't have to worry about that ever again.
Yep. I tell people to go there all the time. I love it. So now I've traded back multiple times in this draft. Now, what has this done for me? It's given me 3 5th-round picks in this round. We're in the 5th round. And it's given me no 6th-round picks and 2 7th-round picks.
Nice.
And I was okay with that because I always feel like the sweet spot of a draft where there's really good value is in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round.
Yep.
So I kept trading back to move up into like the 5th area because I figured that would put me in a position to get some good quality players instead of just staying per round.
Well, and you see it every year. Guys that are somewhere 4th, 5th, 6th range jump into 1st and 2nd round picks the following year. So
Correct.
that's where you can really kind of get ahead of the curve.
You absolutely can. It gets a little dicey after that, though, too.
It does.
So you don't want to get too far, too cute and getting those 9th, 10th rounds or anything like that, because then
you're hurting.
It could feel a little icky.
Yep.
So went the 23 pick at 5-1 and Austin Eckler, and I was up at 5-3, and I really shocked up my league mates here because, again, I have Mark Andrews, 24-1-1, and Trevor Lawrence. I have no young receivers. It's really odd for me to be in the 5th round of a startup draft. I have no receivers. Very unlike how I like to build a team. Mm-hmm. And I was up here at 5-3, and I selected Josh Jacobs. Now, this really, like, the league mates are like, oh my God, like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't you. You say grab young receivers. Don't grab running backs that are going to their second contract.
And here he is.
But here he was. So the reason I took Josh Jacobs was I always want to have at least, if I don't grab a one young running back early, then my biggest hole in my team is going to be running back, and you can't win that way. Mm-hmm. Like, if you have no running backs, you can't win. With Josh Jacobs, this is a player I've always liked from his rookie year all the way now, who's been a running back one the last 3 years, who just led the league in rushing, who's still only 25 years old.
Right.
So for how many running backs have already gone as well, like, I knew, like, this is, like, when it comes back to me, like, running back was slim pickings. And there's nobody else I really love there. You know, did I want J.K. Dobbins to be my number one? Did I want Ramondre Stevenson to be my number one? Did I want Travis? It could have been Travis Etienne. It could have been DeAndre Swift. But I know for sure Josh Jacobs is a really good running back. Mm-hmm. And at 25 years old, if I just want to get 2 more years out of Josh Jacobs, I'm fine with that. Maybe I get 3, but I'm fine with that. Mm-hmm. The fact that his reception value went up last year, I know, which is something we always believed in. I know I had a true running back one because he's done it every single year. And he's also about to either get franchise tagged to the same team that just will make him unstoppable, or he's going to get a long-term deal. So I'm going to get some security in there as well with a 2-year guarantee. So I took Josh Jacobs, also knowing that I had 3 picks in this round. So I told myself, I was like, I got to get a running back. I have to get a receiver. And then what do I do with that 3rd pick? So I took Josh Jacobs there, very comfortable. And then I went Travis Etienne, and then I was up again. So this is where I go, okay, Devontae Adams is on the board. There's some Michael Pittman Jr. is on the board here I like. I don't have George Pickens shares. I like him. DeAndre Swift is on the board. And I told myself, because with DeAndre Swift, I was like, do I go back-to-back running backs for DeAndre Swift and Josh Jacobs and have to worry about it? I kept saying, yeah, that's fine, but I'm going to regret that down. Like, I can't, like, I told myself, no, you grab one running back early, early, and know how tempting those other running backs are, you don't bite because it's too short of a window. So I was like, no, I got Josh Jacobs. That's the problem of not taking DeAndre Swift. So what I did was take 2024 1-4.
Woo!
So
what do you have now? What as far as draft capital?
I have 1-1 in 24 and 1-4.
Nice.
So my thought process here was, and actually I was talking to Gary about this as well when I was up on the clock. I was like, okay, yes, it's next year 1-4. Yes, Devontae Adams out there, but where would Devontae Adams be next year when he's 30? Where would the running backs are all a risk. I was like, again, 1-4 doesn't depreciate, it accelerates. Mm-hmm. So at 1-4.
Pedal to the metal.
Accelerate.
Dude, once
doesn't depreciate or appreciate.
And
it just
gone,
accelerates.
It accelerates. So I was sitting there at 1-4. I was like, okay, I got Caleb Williams. I was like, man, I was thinking about this class again. I was like, I have Mark Andrews. I could for sure then, I got 100% either get that running back at Trevian Henderson. Mm-hmm. I can get Brock Bowers.
Oh, Bowers.
I can get possibly Drake May, which probably won't be there. But any of those guys there, there'll be somebody there that I want to fill out.
Or Marvin Harrison. One of those guys is for sure to be there.
For sure to be there. Or somebody else amazing that's risen up the board.
Right.
Or I told myself, if I play my cards right and I get enough draft capital, I can move up from 1-4 to 1-3 or 1-2 and get the guy I want. So I told myself at 1-4, it puts me in a lot of positions. If I could back that up with more draft capital, there might be a way to put myself in position, even though I'm just moving up a couple spots, to still get Marvin Harrison Jr. or my 3rd quarterback. Right. Or I can sit pretty and get my running back that I want, my second running back that I was going to take there, and get Brock Bowers there, or however it plays out. So I knew at 1-4, and by the time we get to next year's draft class, next year's 1-4 will be drastically more valuable than this year's 1-4 because of the talent that will be there. So I couldn't pass that up. And I didn't want to risk it not being there at my other pick. So I just went and took 1-4.
Okay. I like it, man.
So
for the record.
So I have 1-4 there. Then it goes where I'm sorry, I lost my place here. So then it goes
Pat Fryermuth,
Michael
Pittman Jr., and then you're up again.
Then I'm on the clock here again.
Yep.
So I knew I was taking a receiver here, and I didn't know who I wanted to go
Got
with.
sniped with Michael Pittman, right? That would have been a nice little pick, I think, as your guy.
I would have taken Michael Pittman.
Yep.
That's been my guy there. But again, I got sniped. So it left me looking at, I honestly was looking at Chris Godwin, Christian Watson, George Pickens, and Deebo Samuel.
Right.
Who I was looking at there.
I think we had conversations about this one as well, and you had a couple of other guys too that you were kind of tossing around.
DeAndre Swift was still kind of a possibility there, but
Right.
I was like, again, I can't. I was like, I mean, I could trade DeAndre Swift. I was like, but if anything goes wrong at all from here until August with DeAndre, my team's set back a little bit.
I mean, McLaurin was still on the board. Was DJ Moore off the board?
Still on the board.
DJ Moore's still on the board.
He was still on the board.
Still on the board. I contemplated DJ Moore, but the highest upside receiver was Deebo Samuel.
Totally.
That was my guy. So it's my highest upside guy. Terry McLaurin and Deebo are pretty much the same age, so that was a no-brainer there. And then I like George Pickens and Christian Watson, but then I was like, then I'm going really young, and I wanted to try and see if I could build a team again that could somewhat compete this year. I wanted to see if I could toe the line. That was my thought process. Can I toe the line here and build a team that could compete now, and maybe it wins, maybe it doesn't when it gets in the playoffs, with still having good draft capital, right? Because I've already got the 1-1 and 1-4. So I took Deebo Samuel. And
that was who I suggested as well. I mean, like we kind of talked that one out, and so I agree with that. And you came back and were like, none of these guys feel like rock solid. I'm like, that's why they're still on the board right now. Like everyone's going to kind of feel like that right now. There's a ton of guys. All the guys that you just mentioned have upside to be a wide receiver 1 or like a high-end wide receiver 2 type of guy.
I mean, Debo's done it.
Right, absolutely. But there's going to be question marks, and that's why they're still out there right now.
And with Debo, I was like, at worst case, I'm getting a wide receiver 2. And that's a championship caliber player.
Right.
And he's only 27, so I still have a couple more years of Debo as well. So if I take him now, I still have the youth coming in behind him. So after Debo, I won't have a pick in the entire 6th round, but to fill out this round, it went a 2023 pick here, then DeAndre Swift, then George Kittle, Najee Harris, George Pickens, Christian Watson, Nick Chubb, Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin, 2023 pick, 1st round pick, Jerry Jeudy, Russell Wilson. Then it went DJ Moore and Jameson Williams because I was a little sad because I was dead set on DJ Moore coming back to me, and that was my selection. It did not. So that finished out the 6th round with DJ Moore and Jameson Williams. To start the 7th round, it went J.K. Dobbins, Ramondre Stevenson, and then I was up. So
Ramondre feels a little bit icky to me right there for some reason, but I get it.
I was okay with it. With the upside of having a running back 1 there, I was okay with it.
No, I mean, I get it. I feel like...
Don't be smirched, Ramondre.
So
he carried my teams this year.
New England, man. Just New England running back. Like,
you.
who knows what's going to happen with that next year?
That's true.
Because that was last year.
If anything, it should be better with Harris gone, but we'll see.
But they're going to have a real offensive coordinator. Who knows?
Which will unleash him.
Possibly. Possibly. Or maybe they'll throw the ball every once in a while.
Well, they need receivers first.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
We'll see how that plays out.
We'll see.
All right.
So
anyway, you're
I
up
have
to the
Debo
3rd
here,
pick.
and I'm looking at younger receivers here, and I'm going, okay, I like Treylon Burks here. I like Marquise Brown here. But I was like, you know what? I could, as I'm thinking my process, but I could build a team that could compete now. Treylon's somewhat of a risk. Marquise Brown, some of a risk. I was like, I'm going to take Amari Cooper here. He's 28 years old. He's in his prime. A very valuable asset in Dynasty. Finished the year as a wide receiver 1 last year. With Deshaun Watson coming to full offseason, I was like, okay, Amari Cooper, if Deebo Samuel's not my wide receiver 1, there's a very good chance Amari Cooper's a wide receiver 1. 28 years old, so I have a 27-year-old and 28-year-old receiver to go with Trevor Lawrence. I have those 2 draft picks and Mark Andrews, and Josh Jacobs. So it's like, so my core is Trevor Lawrence, Josh Jacobs, Amari Cooper, Deebo Samuel.
And with Deebo Samuel
Caleb Williams.
and Cooper, like you have 2 guys that could potentially be wide receiver 1s, like pretty solid wide receiver 1s. Worst case scenario, they're high-end wide receiver 2s. Like that's a worst case scenario in both those guys. And that's a pretty good place to be in.
And they're not young, but again, I have 24, 1-1, and 1-4. Right. So the youth aspect is always on my eyes. I was like, I'm going to play this out. I'm going to get quality veterans that I don't have to worry about proving out. Now I'll take the risk in actual draft classes.
And if they're still young enough that if something goes south, on those on your league or on your season next year, you could unload either one of those guys for very good draft.
My whole thought process was, again, draft guys are older but still hold value. So if things fall apart, exactly like Matt said, I have wiggle room. Right. So I gave when you hear my whole team, I gave myself a lot of wiggle room. I can switch either way. I can either trade these draft picks for more proven players or go for the ship, or I can trade some of these veteran players for 25 picks or other 24 picks are already in the draft class. Right. Either way. So I took Amari Cooper, then it went Marquise Brown, then it went a 23 pick, Treylon Burks, then a 24 pick, and then I was up again. So here, I told myself if the only 23 picks left, the next pick was 1-9.
Okay.
So I had one pick. I had one running back. I know I want to come away with at least a first-round pick in both draft classes. I already have 2 and 24. So I was like, I'm taking 1-9 here. I was like, maybe somehow Anthony Richardson can fall to me here. Maybe Hendon Hooker goes in a good spot. I was like, but here's a really good spot to grab a young receiver, like a Jordan Addison or Quentin Johnson, they fall. Or I can get Zach Charbonnet, and this could be my running back too. I was like, 1-9 here is going to be a really good spot to get a good quality player to fill in that use spot.
So this is 1-9 in the 23
in the 23 class.
23 class. And you're right. That's probably the range that we're going to see the top running backs other than Gibbs and Bijan. That's probably where we're going to see whoever that next, couple guys that go in the second or early third. That's probably going to be the prime spot to take those. Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense.
And I told myself, I was like, okay, so I don't have, 2 older receivers are Debo and Amari. I got Mark Andrews and Trevor Lawrence. I got those 2 other picks. I was like, with 1-9 here, I can go any way. I could take a running back or receiver, whatever the better value is. I get Jordan Addison. Like I said, there's going to be a player there that now influx into my team to add that youth. Mm-hmm. So again, I want to grab my youth on this team where I could in draft capital. Mm-hmm. So I'm still playing that game here. So I go ahead and take 1-9. Then it goes Dameon Pierce, Jahan Dotson, 23 pick, Tony Pollard, Jared Goff goes off the board, Kenny Pickett goes off the board. I would have liked to get one of those guys. I didn't get him. Derek Carr went. So obviously there's a quarterback run. Brandon Ayuk, then Geno Smith. So at this point, all the quarterbacks are gone. And I told I'm looking at myself. I was like, okay, at least I got Caleb Williams, and Trevor Lawrence. So that run was gone. And I was like, okay, I'll get Sam Howell later. Didn't work out that way either. So it goes Geno Smith. Then it went 23 pick. Then it went Matt Stafford. Then it went Jordan Love. So again, these quarterbacks are just gone. They're absolutely gone. Derrick Henry.
So where are you at this? Because that was your pick, Jordan Love, and obviously it wasn't. I mean, you didn't pick there.
So you didn't have an 8th.
I didn't have an 8th round pick. Okay. Right. So no 8th round pick as well because all my trade ups get into the 2 7ths and 2 5ths. So I moved up out of the 6th and out of the 8th. 3 picks. All right. So then I went Rashad Bateman, Deontay Johnson, Aaron Rodgers, Dalvin Cook, Mac Jones, Christian Kirk, Joe Mixon, and then I was up again. So here's the one pick.
So we're in the middle of the 9th, or we're approaching the middle of the 9th round, and it's starting to feel.
This is where it starts to get a little icky.
Yeah. This is where it doesn't feel great. Like this is where you start almost not wanting to make the picks, but you have to. You
got to fill out a roster.
You have to fill out a roster, which is, in my opinion, kind of like a tipping point in this kind of draft, right? Because you could really start going crazy draft capital and just whatever. I'll figure out my starting lineup later. Or you sprinkle in, a little bit of both and kind of see how that kind of works out. It sounds like, or it looks like, I think Rich kind of towed the line and kind of tried to fill out both, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So with this pick here at 9-5, I had Mark Andrews and I needed another tight end. Mm-hmm. And looking at it, I thought the highest upside there was David Njoku, a 26-year-old tight end that just signed a long-term deal with a quarterback that's going to take the upside. And I didn't want Darren Waller's a little older. This is a young tight end who's talented, tight end premium. I took David Njoku. I realized I could have taken another draft pick here. I could have got probably like 111, 112, and 24, but I already had 2 picks, and I wanted my other tight end, and not a tight end that's a developmental tight end. I want a tight end that could plug and play outside of Mark Andrews because, in Superflex tight end premium leagues in that flex spot, if you have a solid tight end that's tight end like 5 or 6, that's a good place to plug somebody like that. So I took David Njoku. And like Matt said, there's a lot of guys, I was considering Calvin Ridley there as well. Could have Trevor Lawrence, but I already had my older receivers there. I didn't want to put myself in a position where I was super thin at tight end. I didn't want to do that. So I took David Njoku. I was like, maybe it's a slight reach here, but I'd rather grab him now. And at that point, I'd been sniped 5 times on the players I wanted.
Right.
Get
your guy that you want.
wasn't going to let it happen.
Because you don't pick again for like another 15 picks or something like that. And was it in the back of your head? Like, obviously, you ended up going with Njoku. Was it in the back of your head like, oh crap, what if like a big time run on like draft picks happens here and there's 15 that I miss out on here? Was that in the back of your, because those are unknown, but that like we've been talking about, they're locked into certain positions in the draft. I know, obviously the 2023 we're already down to like the 10th pick or something like that, maybe even
a little lower than that actually, like 112. No, because then I'm looking at, here's how I look at now. I love Dalton Kincaid. I absolutely love him. I mean, he's not playing. He's not going to the combine because he hurt his back. He's a small fracture, so hopefully it makes him drop just a little bit. But the NFL draft will push him up. I was like, if I take 112 here, I'm taking like Dalton Kincaid. Why not just take David Njoku, who's more of a proven asset? Sure. And I wasn't worried about what you said, Matt, because I'd already put myself in position where everybody else would have been at like, oh man, I'm starting to miss out on these first round picks. Now we're at 110, 111, 112.
I am a little surprised the 23 first didn't go quicker because they do in most drafts. Now I get it that the 24 is involved as well, but like to me, in my mind, would I rather have, 111, 112, whatever it is there, would I trade that straight up for David Njoku in a Superflex time premium? I don't know that I would, but I know you guys like to stack tight ends a little more than I do. So would you, in retrospect, would you rather have 112 or would you rather have?
I'd rather have David Njoku.
Okay.
Because again, I would just take a tight end there. So like I'm one hand for another. You know what I mean? Like, do I get to more up? And Njoku still offers a high upside. And again, I'd put myself in position. I already have 1-1, I have 1-4, and I have 1-9. So like I have the good draft capital where everybody else is gonna be chasing the mid-range to lower draft capital. So and I understand what you're saying. And that was my whole thought process. Would I trade this player for this pick?
Right.
And for Njoku, I was like, if I own David Njoku and he's my number 2 tight end, I'm not going to trade him for 112 because I'm just going to draft another tight end there, and now I have to wait for him to pan out and hope he pans out. Like I don't have to do that.
Assuming that you go tight end there could be other running backs or receivers or guys that could be there as well.
But the running backs there are like James Cook, things, Tyler Algier.
No. I mean in the rookie class.
Oh yeah, and you're right.
This year, Tank Bigsby and those guys.
I told myself I'd figure
Evans,
that out.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I was more concerned about not having another tight end than anything else.
Sure.
So I took David Njoku there. Then I went 2024 pick, Calvin Ridley, Darren Waller, James Cook, 23 pick, Brock Purdy, 24, Mike Williams, 23 pick, Cole Kmet, Greg Dulcich, 24 pick, 23 pick, 24 pick, 112 in the 10th round. So that gave me 3 first-round picks. Now, this pick to me is a very important pick. This is a very important pick to me, and I'll tell you why. 112 is still a first-round pick. A lot of people don't have first-round picks in this draft class. I already have 2 first-round picks in 24. I told myself if I take 112, I will get more out of this 112 than I can get for anything behind me. I can either get a player already selected ahead of this 112, or I can move up, like I said, from 1-4. So I took 112 knowing with this draft class, this is my bargain chip. This will be the piece that gets me what I need either next year in draft class or a player I want this year. Because at the same time, where I'm somewhere like competing here to like see how it plays out, other teams will drop out and not have a chance. And now this 112, even though it's 112, will look way more enticing than the running back they took ahead of me or DeAndre Swift or whatever running back that may be.
And subconsciously, there's something different about 112 and 2-1. Yes. Even though they are 1 pick apart, subconsciously, it's a first-round pick.
It's a world of difference.
It is.
It really is.
It could put me in position to get like Christian McCaffrey if I, you know what I mean? Like so a lot of players that went way ahead of this 112, it opens that door. And now it's just 112, but I was like, I'll grab stuff around 24 pick, 23 pick, Kadarius Toney, Aaron Jones, Dalton Schultz, Cam Akers, Mike Evans, Cortland Sutton, Rashad White. So sitting here, there was nobody I loved. And after this round, we'll kind of just like review.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably just go through the whole thing.
We'll just review my team here. So sitting here, I was kind of thinking like, okay, Isaiah Pacheco possibly, Tyler Algier, that young running back. And I told myself, like, I still don't have my third receiver. I know I have 1.9. DeAndre Hopkins was still on the board. I know D-Hop's 30 years old, but he's still a quality receiver, and I still got a year, maybe 2 out of him left of quality production. So I was like, if I'm going to build a team that's going to try and win now too, he's a perfect wide receiver 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it gave me Amari Cooper, Deebo Samuel, and DeAndre Hopkins. And for me, I felt really good about that core with my draft capital. So let me tell you how my team played out, because we're going to end the show.
Yeah, and I do love your next pick, because I think that guy and the guy that went right before it are 2 of the best values in startups right now.
Who went next?
You took David Montgomery next.
Yes.
And right before that, Miles Sanders went. I think they are the 2 of the best values in startups right now, because people aren't sure where they're going to be. There's a chance they could both end up right back in the same spot, producing like they always have. Or they could go to somewhere else, and yeah, then it's up in the air a little bit. But either way, they're still going to be productive running backs that are going to at least be RB2s. And you got them in the 12th round. So I think that was fantastic value.
Yeah, for David Montgomery, the unknown, the free agency, him only being 25 years old, I was like, man, for how many teams, like 15 teams that need a running back, like he's going to get a shot somewhere to get some carries. So I was like, I feel very comfortable with him on my roster. It made me feel better about missing on these running backs. So I grabbed David Montgomery at running back. I also grabbed, not too much later, I grabbed James Conner. And again, Arizona running back. So my running back,
he has at least 1 year until like they have the ability to really be able to cut him.
And I'm looking at your picks here. It's like you went running back, pick, running back, pick, running back, pick for like the next four or five alternating rounds there.
So, and at the end of the draft, I went all picks.
Yeah.
So let's start let me give you my picks I ended up with. I have in 23, 1-9, 2-7, 2-9, 2-12, 3-11. So I have 3 picks in the second round. I think there's some really good value there at tight end.
For sure.
So I told myself I end up with Mark Andrews, and I end up with Mark Andrews, David Njoku. Did I have another tight end? No, I did not have another tight end, because I told myself I can grab value. Again, I have my 2 guys that are proven. Now I can let the developmental guys fall into place. So at 2-7, 2-9, 2-12, I'll be able to get a running back, and I'll be able to get probably 2 tight ends that I like. Even though everybody's listening to this, that's the way I'm going, right? In 24 now, I really loaded up.
Yeah.
I have 1-1, 1-4, 1-12. So 3 first-round picks.
Nice.
I have 3-6, 3-10, 3-11, 4-3, 4-5, 4-8, 4-11. So I have a lot of picks.
Yeah.
Roster-wise, here's how my starting lineup is today. I don't have that second quarterback, which kind of hurts, but the way I thought about it was like David Montgomery or James Conner could be my second quarterback if they average 15 points a game. That could be my second quarterback. So my starting lineup is Trevor Lawrence, Josh Jacobs, James Conner, Deebo Samuel, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Mark Andrews, David Montgomery, and David Njoku. So, okay.
Yeah.
Nothing. You're going to be like, oh, that's guaranteed a winner. But that's a team with some of these other teams that can make the playoffs. And once you get to playoffs, I have the draft capital to kind of move around after. So, again, I gave myself a lot of different ways for this sway. On my bench, I don't have a lot on my bench.
Right.
So,
a lot of draft picks.
On my bench, now, again, strategy here was with all these draft capital, it opens up a bench spot.
Right.
So there's Jarvis Landry out there. There's tons of like older veterans out there that I'm gonna be able to add onto my roster. It gives me a lot of flexibility to grab players.
And especially with being, a little bit weaker for this year at quarterback, you can take all of those guys that will maybe be the bridge starter. All of the Drew Locks of the world and all of those guys, just put them all on your bench, see which one sticks.
And on my bench, I have Carson Wentz, which again, he's a turd, but it's my turn now.
But he's
my first
our
Carson
turn.
Wentz shirt. He might get a shot somewhere. Who knows?
Never know.
It's worth the risk. I
wouldn't
got
surprise
Carson Wentz like super late.
Yeah, it's all 24th round.
Yeah, super late. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I have risk. I have Zamir White. I kind of took Zamir White around early, so I was not going to miss out on him.
Yeah.
Especially with Jacobs, I think it makes a lot of sense to pair them together.
And if I love Zamir White, so I hope Jacobs leaves, and then I have
And then you have two
running backs.
running backs.
If not, and if Jacobs goes down, I still have Zamir White, who's a running back I believe in. I have Odell Beckham Jr., OBJ, so another receiver who will go somewhere and probably still offer some value this year in a flex or another wide receiver spot. I have Curtis Samuel, another free agent. Marquez Valdez-Scanlon and McCole Hardman, another 25-year-old free agent who could end up somewhere and get a contract like a Christian Kirk contract. You don't think it works out, but it works out.
All of a sudden, he's getting fed targets because he made so much money.
Right.
So that's my team.
Yeah.
There's some things I would have done slightly differently, but again, I tried to build a team that could go different ways, and I want to invest in the future. And I'll revisit this team when we do the rookie draft. I'll tell you what rookie picks I have to kind of pan out, and I'll tell you when I make trades on this or how this 24 class pans out. But
Perfect.
I feel with these rookie picks that I have, like I'm in a really good spot to build this team up with quality players and have longevity. You know, Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence. I know I missed out on that young stud receiver, but there's a chance I have enough assets here to go get Marvin Harrison Jr. And
Yeah.
but again, I want to see how I mean,
That'd be fantastic, man. If you could pair those two guys together,
that's the plan.
you're taking off.
At 1-4. I wish I had 1-3 instead of 1-4, but it didn't work out that way. But I feel like I have enough. Again, that 112 to me is huge. Because if Drake May pans out the way he does, and he goes 1-2 in that draft class, I think I have the assets that move up one spot.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. With that 112 there, you could easily, that's like the perfect range. Late first, early second, can move you up a couple picks there to get you that guy.
If not, I get Trevor Henderson, I get Brock Bowers. I mean,
And who knows?
And
I
you'll
mean,
know.
there could be another couple of quarterbacks that kind of emerge this season as well. And 1-4 might be a very good spot. If a couple more guys come up ahead, you could be staring at Marvin Harrison with that 1-4.
Or another quarterback. So,
Right.
and that was my thought process 1-4 as well. It's like, okay, I have Caleb Williams. I have Trevor Lawrence. There's a good chance I get another quarterback as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it plays out. I'm excited. It was really fun, and I definitely want to do it again. I
Another
encourage
one.
everybody to try it out. Like it's very interesting how the draft goes because having those 24 picks in there really does
Shake things up.
push everything back. And you're right, Matt. You could go all in and just draft players and not take any picks. But then you have no draft capital for the next 2 years. Now, if you draft guys like DJ Moore and young enough, you're okay. But if anything goes sour here,
Yeah.
We know
You're
you're
stuck
drafting
till
DJ Moore,
25.
Matt.
Oh, that's me. But I mean, I've seen Rich. I mean, I played in enough leagues with Rich to know that if he's a contender, he doesn't have any picks like
Right.
for the next 2 or 3 years. So I know he's very comfortable having a team that looks like that and
Right.
operates with nothing for the next couple of seasons. And he's looking at 25, 26
Right.
picks as they're going to be kind of feeding the pipeline for him to keep making a push and keep trading assets. So I know that you feel comfortable doing this, and this does feel like a big time departure kind of from what I see normally from you in a league.
it is because I want to make sure I had those draft capital.
Right.
Like I want to have the draft capital. I told myself I want to see how it played. The whole point was to see I want to see how much people value the unknown over proven players. And what it turns out, just like in Dynasty, people always choose the unknown over the proven players.
Right.
It was very hidden in this draft. I'll tweet out a link to this draft so you can see the whole draft board, so it's a little bit easier for you to see. So I will tweet out a link on my Twitter account for this. So take a look there, and we'll see how it plays out. And you're right. I'm comfortable operating an older team. I think the biggest thing I wish I had in this draft was a second quarterback. I feel way better about my team if I had a second quarterback.
Trades can always happen.
But I think I have enough. I think I have enough to get that second quarterback. And again, we'll see how it plays out. I really want to see if I can trade up and get Anthony Richardson as well from 1-9.
Yeah.
There you
But
go.
again, I think having 1-9, 2-7, 2-9, 2-12 this year, like I'm going to get some depth there. So I feel good about it.
That might be a pipe dream, 1-9 with Richardson.
Yeah,
After
well,
the
especially
combine.
if he goes 9 to the Panthers.
Right.
He won't be there at 1-9. But then Jordan Addison will be there. Jaxon Smith Njigba will be there. Zach Charbonnet will be there. One of those guys will be there. Or if I wanted to say Dalton Kincaid, I don't even care.
Yeah.
So that's it. We're going to jump into our Nerd
Michael
Herd Show.
Mayer, too. I mean,
Michael Mayer, too. Nerd Herd Show. Again, if you want to listen to the Nerd Herd Show, next week we're going to be jumping into our second round of quarterbacks we're breaking down. Underdog. $10. Promo code NERDS.
Such
Get
a
all that
deal.
in the GM. And let me know
it's
what you think.
ridiculous.
We'll be back next week. Officially kicking off rookie season, breaking down the 2023 rookie quarterbacks. Who's the first one we're breaking down? Do you remember?
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. All 5'10" of them.
Did he officially measure in at 5'10"?
Not yet.
Not yet. I think the measurements for quarterbacks are tomorrow. I think they're tomorrow.
Does he actually get to 5?
I know. He might be shorter than Kyler.
I have a lot to say about this.
Does he actually get there? Or is he 5'9" and 5'8"?
What a risky pick. With tons of upside.
I'm
Watch,
not,
he's been bluffing us this whole time. He's 6'1".
I am not a tall person, but 5'9", man. Like I can see the top of a 5'9" person's head. You know what I mean? Like
I heard he's 100% not over 5'11". 100%. So we'll see. Somebody said they had a friend in the scouting combine. They measure him at like Alabama. He's 5'10.5". That's what they said.
Okay.
But he could be wearing shoes, so it could be 5'10".
I was say, did he have cleats on?
Who knows?
Uh-oh.
Well, we'll find out 100% next week.
Adios.